thanks for joining us again. This is Newspaper Review, and I am Moses Humphrey. And of course, with me is Daily Fanimo, who is a seasoned reporter, the public affairs commentator, journalist. Good morning once again.
Good morning, Moses.
Thanks for staying back.
Yeah.
And also, we have joining us virtually from our Benin station, Honorable Destiny Anabulele. Honorable, thank you very much for your time.
Good.
All right, now let's dive into it. We have a few dailies. We'll touch on as many as we can. From the Punch newspaper, we're still talking commissioning of projects. It's right there, the cover page of the Punch newspaper. But the headline on top of that one is Federal Revenue Agencies face shake-up as Tinubu signs tax bills. Customs, NUPRC, MDAs may cede tax collection to NRC. That's Nigeria Revenue Service. That's their new name. They've been christened. New VAT sharing formula begins January 1, 2026. Oyo, Edo, 10 others to vote in August by-elections. PDP BOT defies INEC, backs Makinde block for NEC meeting. Outrage as Nolgay rejects Osun allocation transfer to APC chairman. All right, these are the headlines on the cover page of the Punch newspaper. So let's start off with these headlines here. Federal agencies. I think we've touched on this. We touched on this earlier. The tax reform bills. I think Honorable Destiny would want to add a few things to it, but I think he's trying to get a few things done. So what are your thoughts on the tax reform bills? What are your thoughts on this headline?
Well, just like Barrister Azim said earlier when he was talking about Rivers, that he's vindicated. I think now I'm vindicated. That despite the uproar, when Udumi started talking here, I said that bill will be passed. And 3-4 months down the line, the bill is passed. You see, for me, I know that that bill, if properly implemented, is going to be a game changer in tax administration in this country. We have had duplicity of tax collection in Nigeria that, in fact, going on the road alone is a task for Nigerians, particularly those who move goods from one point to the other. If you move from Lagos, by the time you get to Bega, somebody is waiting for you.
But
and if you show him the tax.
There is something. I mean, when we were having the conversation in the morning, Barrister Asim, who was here earlier, pointed out something. He did say that there is a proposed bill before the Assembly that 5% of petroleum, there will be a 5% tax on petroleum,
yeah.
and that will go to the end user. So for every liter of petrol that you buy, there is a percentage of it that goes to the government. So wouldn't that affect the price of petrol going forward? Doesn't this seem like you're giving with one hand, you're taking with the other? I mean, don't you get that?
There was a time in this country during, was it Babangida or Abacha's administration, when we had PTF, Petroleum Tax Fund. Such was deducted from how much for a liter that to buy. Such money was deducted and it was used to build infrastructure. And I know some roads that were constructed then. But the only problem I have with this is how much of these deductions get to the end user.
Good. How much of it will be used?
That's what I'm saying. Because if it's not applied for what is intended, it will not get back to you and I and other Nigerians. That's the worry in this. You see, for me, I'm not always quick to jump at criticizing policies.
Well, it's not about criticizing.
You understand what I'm saying?
But I'm
bothered about the implementation process. and the trickle effect it should have that I'm not getting. That's
Well,
the worry.
in my opinion, the unification of the tax system is good. The fact that this will curb multiple taxation.
Yes.
That is good. But when you talk about usage of taxes, if you look at antecedents, there's a lot of questions will emerge as to how government have used funding that has accrued to it in time past. So can we trust government in Nigeria? Not just this government now, even the ones before it, and probably the ones after this one. Can we trust them to make judicious use of funds before them to the benefit of the people? The time you mentioned, roads were fixed, and now we are seeing government, even when things are fixed, it's overly bloated. And then what is
the quality of the job is not
quality of the job is in question. And then at the end of the day, you realize that okay, when they say they've done something with 39 billion, I'm just saying,
But that was exact.
And then you look at the quality of what is done, you start to wonder, like, how can you say you spend 39 billion on this when it looks like a 1 billion naira job done?
You see, contract inflation has always been there. And unfortunately, successive governments take it a notch higher than the previous government. And that's the saddest part of it. Because when you compare how much we spend on a kilometer of road in Nigeria to how much they spend on roads in Ghana or nearby Republic of Benin, you will ask yourself, there was a rail section from Tanzania to another country. I think it was about 630 something. I can't remember the exact length of that road. What we spent on light rail here in Nigeria, not the real train that is expected to, that is working for them. And these are speed train in Tanzania. Is not even up to 1/3 of what we are spending here on locomotive train. So I totally agree on that we have not gotten to a point that whatever we say we are spending, and you see, contract inflation is even not as worse as when you even inflate and you do a shoddy job. There was a particular contractor that was sponsored by one House of Reps member in Edo State that constructed the road. You know what he did? He laid laterite, what we call sand, with hardcore pellets on that road and went to paint it black. Can you imagine? And so activists went there the following day and they were chopping off with their bare hands that road.
I think I remember.
I'm sure you must have watched that video. So that's how bad it is. When you award a contract of 1 million naira to somebody, before it trickles down to the Accountant General's office where their money will be released, it has reduced to 500,000. And Accountant General, the director of budget, finance and all that, will take their own. By the time it gets to the contractor, he's only having 300,000. And the contractor wants to maximize profit. So at the end of the day, you are getting a road for just 150,000.
So what then is the benefits of all these taxation? You start to ask yourself.
You see, taxation, if this government would take a different route from what it used to be, it's something that can assist us in infrastructure, base, health and all that. Do you know that in Britain, they say that it is better for you to be an armed robber than a tax evader? Mm-hmm. Because the multiplier effect, you understand? Because it is from this tax that pay social security that will deter people from committing crime, except if you are a deviant. But when you stop paying and these social misfits are thrown into the street, you know the consequence.
All right. Honorable Enabulele, your mic is open.
Let me, as usual, appreciate you for letting me to at least say one or two things and to step back.
Oh,
You see, the issue we have in
Martin,
this country
I don't have
is
this.
not that we are bereaved of reforms or acts or laws. It is usually the implementation. That's why I'm a little bit not comfortable with these their new tax reforms. With utmost humility, we must have the basics before you come up with this bogus, this textbook, this handout, and this photocopy. With utmost humility, I'm very it's quite it is disturbing though, because as we speak in this country, we are not at the path of recovery. That is my greatest worry. Not as if I have a problem with this reform in a sane society. As you're already aware, the society we are in now is insane. That is the gospel truth. We must call a spade a spade. It's never a garden fork. That's the only way we get out of this quagmire. If I go before a physician, a doctor, to say I'm ill, God forbid, and I refuse to conceal or refuse to let out how I feel, I will not get. It is wrong. It is wrong diagnosis. I will go wrong prescription. So that is the problem. So I've listened to my other brother there. Yes, how can we get out of this quagmire? He said something, use a do. Not too long ago, about 3 weeks ago or a month ago, the state government, quote unquote, procured an SUV to the acting councillors that they elevated to become who now became a acting local government chairman. They procure SUV. I don't want to mention the name of the vehicle. I wouldn't want to be charged for advert. Ordinarily, I wanted to. A friend of mine called me to procure a brand new, which is, let me drop below 100 million. But to be very sincere, it's not up to 60 million. But here they bought it about over 200 million without the knowledge of the state government. So for me, I don't have a problem. Even when the president, when he was assuming office, he told Nigerians that fuel subsidy is gone. And the reason that he said fuel subsidy is gone, that the issue of borrowing will be reduced to the barest minimum. But for 2 years now, compared to the man he took over from, within 2 years, has superseded 8 years of borrowing. So I have a problem. So when they say one thing, it is another thing. That is my problem. And again, we are short of data in this country. Our country is not a data-driven country. So I have a problem. And people say I'm complaining. You see, I'm still from the streets. Despite that I have been to the local council. I'm still connected with the people. So our people there down in the street, the downtrodden, or what you call refer to the talakawas, they are suffering. How can this impact, bring home the dividends of democracy? That is my concern. I cited one or two examples just now when he said the social is on. At least now the governors, the subnational government, they have no money. They have more money in their pocket. But today they are borrowing. About the Edo State governor just went to borrow about 100 billion. They just approved it about 2 days ago when they have no money. And the predecessor left some billions.
All right then.
Even for hundreds of millions in dollars in some accounts. And for me, I cannot say for a fact this is what we have.
All right then.
So they have no money now, and they are still going borrowing. That is my problem. That is my problem. That is my worries. Right. So for us, we must go back to drawing board, and they must put in the mechanism to checkmate, to track the performance of this their so-called reform, this textbook reform, with utmost humility.
All right, well, let's look at some of the headlines now. Let's go to the Guardian newspaper. The cover page of the Guardian has a lot of stories I'd like us to chime in on, as many as we can. Let's start off. I think we touched on this earlier. Let's start off with the big story from the Guardian newspaper. And I touched on this, earlier on in the day as well. The headline is Less or More. How erratic supply shortchanges Band A households, industries. And then the animation, the cartoon there says, look, he should use his generators to supplement our supply or go to court. And then you have, three people walking away. One on his helmet has disco, the other NERC, and the other has a politician's cap. and right beside that, you see bills from the ATM or the meter choking the consumer as he tries to run away. Very, very depictive of what Nigerians are going through. And from this cartoon, it feels like the authorities really don't care. But, I said something earlier in the day. I talked about how a small business owner, my barber, is saying that, look, he's making a lot more money now because he has been able to save up to buy a little solar to power his business. And he doesn't have to depend on electricity anymore, especially in the area where I think they are on Band D, on that street.
Of course, they are not likely to have more than 2 hours a day.
They don't have up to 6 hours a day.
I said 2 hours. 6 hours is a lot.
It's a lot. Sometimes they don't even have at all. So he spends a lot on generating on generator fuel.
Yeah.
Always bad. And then he said the day he made 100,000 in one day, in a few hours. He's like, I need to go and rest. I've been standing. I need to go and rest because I made a lot of money. And he was able to see the money made because he didn't have to buy fuel.
And he didn't have to service the generator.
And he didn't have to service the generator. He didn't have to do any of those. So for all the haircuts he made that day, and he's quite cheap. The haircut is quite affordable. For all the haircuts he made, he was able to gather that much money, and the money stayed in his pocket. And that is the story of small businesses.
No,
a lot of them are not having to retain the profits
Moses,
because they're putting it into
Moses,
fuel.
The way we operate in Nigeria, anything that is confusing, we hand it over to God. Anything that you cannot really solve, any problem that you cannot solve in the immediate, you hand it over to God, and then you work up pass. But why are these other nations growing? Every problem, they sit on it and find solution to it. Solve energy problem in this country. 40% of our problem is
Of course, absolutely.
Those Okada riders you see, 60% of them are artisans with skills. But they cannot do anything. You imagine for you to be a welder, a successful one, that you need about 10 kVA generator. And a 10 kVA generator goes as much as 3 million naira. Except you have to find one that is fabricated locally, that you have to soil the whole place with oil and all that, and then you have to grind and wind before it starts. But for you to have a generator that you can just go there, switch on, and then it powers, that's 3 million. Now, a liter of diesel is 1,050 naira, 1,100 naira. And there are some generators that, if it doesn't get to a certain level, if you put it on, it will suck air. And you have to call the technician to come and fix. And that does not come cheap. So now look at that. For somebody who is supposed to be seen as small-scale enterprise. Now imagine businesses that run on 500 kVA generator, 3 at a row. That they have to do 24 divided by 3. And then the public national grid electricity is just a backup whenever it comes. They run 8 hours, rest that one. The next one, 8 hours, rest that one. And then the last one, 8 hours. And then come back to the first one For every shift those generators run, you spend about 500 to 1 million naira in buying diesel, because you need about 700 liters of diesel to power each of these generators. Now imagine if we have steady electricity supply. The wear and tear, servicing, replacement of parts, diesel would have gone. And then the consumer bear the brunt of all this. Businesses will not suck in some of these excesses. It is the consumer that will bear the brunt of these excesses. And that's why they are pricing goods and services out of the reach of the common man. And that's why the common man gets poorer by the day. And that is the unfortunate part of this. So now they are saying band A, band B. You know, Nigerians, you know why we all agreed on this? I better pass my neighbor. Everybody wants to show that at least I'm in band A. So I'm better than those on the other side of the street that are on band B or band C. Meanwhile, they are milking you dry. They are exploiting you. When this band A idea came, the agreement was that for those on band A, minimum of 20 hours a day. Show me a place where you have band A that gives...
well, some people on band A have about 20 hours a day.
And at what cost?
Well, it's quite expensive, of course.
Quite expensive.
20,000 worth of electricity that lasts you for just a weekend, maybe 10 days.
And then so,
or two weeks.
So an average of 60,000 naira you spend
in a month. In a month.
To power band A.
But you know you have power. I have a friend who says in her area they spend quite a lot. They spend about
60,000.
Yes, 60,000 on electricity. But they have enough power that they could turn off the fridge and all of that
for another day
and go for hours.
At least the storage, stored goods in the fridge would have been resting. And there's power to come back to continue when you
so
come
they
back.
Just switch off everything. Say, please, I don't want to go bankrupt.
That's electricity management.
I don't want to go bankrupt.
Electricity management by force.
Honorable Enabulele, talk to me.
Yes, you see, I think this is what we talked about it earlier on today. You see, the issue of taxes and taxation, removing subsidy from those things that are beneficial to the ordinary Nigerians. That is my worry. As we speak very just now, you and I, we are aware that the issue of subsidy from the electricity is a thing of the past. And again, the fuel subsidy wahala. So for us as a people, I remember as a student about over 15 years ago or thereabout, would that to do issue of a survey, look at South Africa and Nigeria. I said then South Africa was about over 40 million people, and they were having over 40,000 megawatts. As we speak today, South Africa is about over 64 million, if I'm not mistaken, and their megawatt is over 60. Over 40, over 50.
Now it is 90.
Megawatts.
Currently it is 90.
Sorry?
Currently it is 90.
Beautiful.
90,000 megawatts.
Beautiful. That was, if I'm not mistaken, before 2010. And you can look at over the years. As a nation, what have we achieved? Is there any concerted effort to take us from this quagmire, rather than what benefits them? So that is my little worries. Do they have us in mind? We are not becoming a government of our own. I tell you, in my house, I have about a duplex of about 1 to 3 rooms. If I tell you what I pay a month, it's outrageous. And where I have my office, it's about a 3-bedroom. What I pay a month, I don't cook. I don't use gas cooker, electric cooker in my office. But what I pay is outrageous, and you want us to survive. It is quite difficult. It is difficult to survive in this kind of hostile scenario. It is difficult. We must tell ourselves the truth. And those in the aim of affairs, they must factor in and see how they can. See, if they're reventing or bringing back subsidy to fuel and electricity, they better do. Otherwise, from where we are heading to, I cannot see an average Nigeria can no longer guarantee. I said something in this platform that my mother said that time will come where a man that is after a snake will be on the run, and the snake you are after will be on the run. We are gradually gravitating towards that as we speak very just now. Because what we need to be benefiting from the government all over the world, there are some incentives for the ordinary people, for small business owners. What are the incentives for people like us, for small business owners? So that's why I'm not very comfortable with this photocopy government as we have it in Nigeria today.
All right, Honorable, I will stay with you with the next headline. So I hope you're ready for me. The next headline here is Senate turns heat on NNPCL over 210 trillion naira audit mess. Demands GMD's appearance as hidden profits, dubious figures, rattle confidence. House seeks probe into alleged 50 billion naira corruption, asset stripping in NPF. You want me to go deeper into the story?
No, you see, we've been saying this. You see, we have the big fish. NNPC is they drive the Nigerian economy, and with utmost humility, since the advent of crude in Nigeria, it has now turned Nigerians to be very lazy in terms of creative and innovation. All we do is to say, okay, when I graduate, go and work with NNPC. At the time in this country, with utmost, we had the likes of people that were working in breweries. They were the top notch. They were the big guys in this country. So as we have today the NNPC, the corruption in NNPC, according to the last president, the corruption in NNPC, it is mind-boggling. That is why every successful government, the president wants to be the minister of NNPC. Every successful government, the president, because he's aware of what is happening in NNPC. It is a cartel. When in this platform, it was in this platform, I said that none of the refinery is working. At the point when I left, some persons called me that, are you in this country? But today, it has got to show that, they are telling us what we want to hear and not the reality on ground. I don't know if it's that same thing they're telling Mr. President. I don't know. When you are a government or you are a shadow of leadership, and you decide to be very far from the people, the people will tell you what you want to hear and not the reality. I think I will put that upon myself to do the research. If it really is what they want the president to hear, or it is what is on ground.
All right then.
So you have seen the revelations.
Oh yes.
I think it was the EFCC boss that said that with utmost humility to the civil servant, that the civil servant, they are more quarrat than the politicians. Underline quarrat than the politicians, and that is the gospel truth. All right. That is I have been there before. So if we want this nation to live from where we are now to an Eldorado, to a society where you and I will go to our bed with our two eyes closed, our children will go seek for admission, go seek for employment without knowing anybody, but based on what is in their head, we must sanitize the civil service system in this country.
Absolutely.
With this system, then there's nothing to show for it.
Absolutely. Sanitize the civil system, we must. And
they are the enablers.
I know you'll always say that. Well, let's just put this in context. Let me go a little deeper into this story. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) has come under intense fire as the Senate's Public Accounts Committee have issued a 10-day ultimatum for the company to explain the over 210 trillion naira in audit discrepancies described by lawmakers as potentially the most alarming financial irregularities in the nation's petroleum history. Now, it gave the group managing director till July 10, 2025 to appear before it and respond to all outstanding issues coming from the Senate. What's your reaction?
They need to publish the auditor report before the Senate goes into their investigation. Because if you don't have the audit report, there's nothing you want to do to counter whatever is the outcome of the report of the committee. Nati shouted for the 8 years of Buhari that NNPC needs to be audited. They didn't listen. They didn't do anything about it. Now, a government has come to say, okay, let's look at what is going on there. In as much as I don't trust the Senate to do a good job.
I was going there.
And I don't trust them to do a good job. Because the way they are latching on it suggested to me that, okay, just come, but don't put on the mic. Let's discuss. That's the feeling I get. At the end of the day, nothing would have happened.
If this were to be a question, I would have said, how much trust do you have in the Senate to ensure that
this money is recovered?
This is transparently investigated.
That is what I'm saying. I don't have any confidence in them as far as I'm concerned. Maybe if they do something spectacular tomorrow, I can now begin. I think 2014 and 2023, 210 trillion
naira. That's a lot of money.
America cannot fritter this kind of money away, in spite of their huge economy. Not to talk of Nigeria, that our economy is so constricted that we are going offshore to borrow money that will just come into this country and disappear. 210. That is the level of their investigation. There are some other things that if you scrutinize very well, over-invoicing will be there, duplication of contracts will be there, budget padding will be there, a lot of things will be there that may not be part of this 210. It's just the normal run of the mill processes that they came up with 210 trillion, not billion, no. Trillion. Come and tell me if some players in this game will not be trillionaire today.
Of course.
So
there's no game saying that.
Now we are looking at the politicians who steal billions, but an NNPC that is supposed to be our cash cow. Now they are taking, within 10 years, they have taken 210 trillion. Do you know what 210 trillion can do to this country? In fact, Dubai will be child's play if this money is recovered and we are able to use it judiciously. We will, and why I said we need to, not just the probe, we should also delve into the idea of privatizing NNPC. Do you know that there is a silent company that is making waves and giving Nigeria so much that people don't notice? NNLG.
Okay.
NNLG is a company that is not privately owned by Nigeria. It's a PPP project. And Nigeria has less than 45% of stake, whereas other private sector players own the larger share.
Talk about NLNG. What role, sorry I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
What role have they played in curbing gas flaring and utilizing the gas that we basically waste?
You see, they are also utilizing part of it. But the huge gas resource in Nigeria cannot be evacuated and sucked in by NNLG alone. We should have about 10 of that company for us to suck in. In fact, we have more gas than hydrocarbon, which is the fossil that we use for petrol, diesel, and all that. We have more gas. More than Russia, that is even playing in gas. But unfortunately, because just like my friend Adamudele just said, as soon as we discovered oil, everybody went to sleep. And that was why, thank God, Gowon is still alive. when he said at one point that making money is not our problem, but how to spend it. UAE made money, but it wasn't a problem for them to spend it. Look at what is happening in UAE, a desert that they cannot even farm there. And they're taking care of their citizens from cradle to grave. You don't need to work in UAE as a citizen of that country. The government takes care of everything. If you want to read a course, if you want to study a particular course, or you want to acquire a skill that is not present in UAE, the government will take care of your travel, accommodation, feeding, tuition, everything to the last penny. Just to pack your bag and go. And when it is time for you to come back, how will such people japa to another country? Mm-hmm. We have abundant gas. We have abundant fossil fuel. We have abundant arable land to farm. Israel does not have the luxury of farming, but they feed themselves. That's why they have GMO. Why are we not utilizing what we have? Bitumen has been discovered more than 60 years ago in Agbabu in Ondo State. Not a single drop of it had been taken out. There are some places in Agbabu, if you trip, you see bitumen oozing out of your feet. And yet nobody is talking about it. And yet we are complaining. We are saying we are broke. We are broke. And we keep borrowing money. They laugh at us because they make maximum profit of us.
And we still have bad roads.
And we still have bad roads. Those we borrow money from, it is not that they love us, but they want to keep us perpetually down. Because you can't even pay the loan from what is available in the country. You only service the loan. And when you service, you only pay interest, accrue interest. So the capital is sitting pretty well there for ages. It's so sad. NNPC,
210 trillion.
210 trillion naira. Now go to every other places.
Okay. So Buhari should be called in at this time.
He should be invited to come and explain why the accounts of NNPC was not audited in his 8 years of rule, and he was Minister of Petroleum. So come and explain.
All right, let's check out another headline. Use presidential power to reconstruct Nigeria. Create state police. Afenifere tells Tinubu. SBM intelligence warns of growing threat from insurgents, separatists. All right, so we hear that Afenifere has urged President Bola Tinubu to, as a matter of importance, forward a bill for the immediate restructuring of the country and creation of state police to the National Assembly. This was as Nigeria's leading geopolitical research consultancy, SBM Intelligence, released fresh data highlighting the leading role of Boko Haram in the series of bombings and attacks in Nigeria in the past 3 years. Afenifere also considered some of the socio-economic situations prevailing in the country after a comprehensive deliberation. The meeting, the report goes on to elaborate on some of the things that they discussed at that meeting. But can the president use his veto power in this regard?
On state police?
On state police, creation of state police?
No, it will pass. I can tell you, it will pass before the end of the year.
Okay. Should I call you a prophet now?
Maybe I should open a ministry. Because already, even the northerners that were stridently against creation of state police, they are now seeing the need. I can know the arrangement of your house better than you do. If I come to your house now, I don't know where you keep your things, but even if there is pitch darkness, you can navigate within your house. And it's the same thing. Somebody is brought from Kano as DPO of Makinde police station. It will take him about 6 months to acclimatize. But bring Omonile that was born in Makinde He grew up in Makinde.
So
he will see pretty well in his office and say, go and bring me some. Yeah, he must be the one doing this.
So how do you think we'll deal with the issue of politicians, public officers, taking advantage of the police, using it to their own advantage, to oppress?
Systems will take care of themselves. There will be mutual destruct. You know what I mean by that? You come and you use it. Somebody else comes later, he uses it against you. Something will tell you that, look, I think we have to re-engineer and reset our brain that we can no longer continue to use this. And there's a way system takes care of itself. You understand? So now, if I have state police as the governor, yes, at some point you might want to deploy them for something that is not edifying. But the people go to so streets, go and bring Sheffield. Sheffield, what do you know about this crime? It's not me, it is the other guys, and they will be arrested. But somebody from as close as Edo here will be in Makinde and say, this you, what is happening? And he will be dishing out orders. Even when the constable and the corporal, when they know where the thing is coming from, they may not likely tell him. And he will be running from pillar to post. You think if you have state police, they will be quicker to respond to all these communities' cries that these people are. Do you know that it even came to fore that almost a month before those guys went to Benue, Yewata, to strike, people got information, but they were just too far flung. Imagine there is a police divisional headquarters at the local government that is nearest to Yewata. At least it won't take them more than 1 hour to get to the scene of the crime. And those people that are coming to attack, they know that there's a police station nearby. It's either they go to the police station to ransack and deal with them before they come back to that community. And if you try that with it, because it is different from the normal communication. The communication signal in the police formations is different from our phone. So they can pick their walkie-talkie and radio the nearest police station and say, we need backup, we need a reinforcement, and they will come. But where you have the area commander is in Benin and they are attacking Uromi. Before the area commander must gather his boys, put them in the police van, and the terrain may not even be proper.
Terrain, another issue.
You understand?
Oh, well.
So we need the state police.
Comrade, honorable comrade, I don't know, I just have to mention. Because you're an honorable, you were an honorable, you're a comrade, I don't know. So
I'm Destiny and Abulene.
All right.
A local government chairman is an honorable.
No, but the title is our problem as a people. That's the problem.
All right, go ahead. Let's have your contribution.
My elder brother, I think he has hit the nail on the head. To be very frank, if we go back to colonial era, the colonial masters use our people to deal with us because they know every hideout of every criminal of every criminal in a locality or in community. I tell you, when I was growing up, I was in secondary school, if I'm not mistaken, at the first 3 years of my secondary school. There was a night, a burial in my community. Some persons came from the city to attend the burial, function. In the process, there was kind of a crisis, fight assumed between the city boys and the local boys. You know what that means? Trying to intimidate the local boys. In the process of the city boys trying to escape the scene, one fell into a well that was not covered. That was where the community people had sparked before the fight, because they knew the terrain. They were able to escape the well. What am I trying to say? The local people know where these criminals are. I tell you, I remember those days when I was in primary 5, primary 6. If a stranger set his or her feet in our community, it is immediately identified. The street people will call the street elders will call him or her for a meeting. Okay, you came in, blah blah blah. They try to to interrogate. Again, there's another scenario. There's a primary school where that I attended, also Lamude Primary School, opposite my father's house. There was a time that they invaded. Some persons went to the primary school, removed the doors and all of that. My father, as one of the community leaders, immediately identified and said, go and call me this person. Go and call me this person. At the end of the day, they sat down and they invited them. And they interrogated and discovered that this person that they have identified perpetrated the act. So, the excuse by the political elites, with utmost humility, it's mundane, it's not tenable, it is infantile. We must go back to state police. If possible, a local government police. We must go back to it. That's the only way we'll be able to have a headway in this security quagmire that is bedeviling, that is ravaging every nook and cranny of this country. That's why I said it earlier. Till then, the issue of us going to agriculture, go into agriculture, full agriculture, till then, I would advise, because it's likely to suicidal. Not too long ago in my state here, if I'm not mistaken, last week here, a man went to harvest pineapple. He sold it at about 1 point something, naira, so to speak. On his way, he was kidnapped. They collected the money and killed the man, about 50-something years old man. In this state, there was a former commissioner during Adams Ali Oshomole that went to his Banga farm, in the neighboring local government of that Northeast. He was kidnapped in the process, a very huge and big and fat man. In the process, he died. So for me, when I'm saying that the issue of agriculture, to me, the persons, I am still there.
Absolutely.
I will not. I have a farm that I have a mark for farming. Because of this insecurity, I have tried to look at you bro, according to one of my friends, you lie low till when the security improves. So we must address the issue of insecurity. And that is the first cardinal responsibility of any responsible and responsible government. Security for the citizen.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Honorable Destiny and Abulele. Thanks for your time. Well, this is how far we can go on newspaper review. Sports is next with Kizzy K. On behalf of, thank you very much, Daily Fanimo, as well, for staying with us.
Maybe I'll switch up to be a presenter now.
You should be one, you know that already. No, I don't want to. But that's it on the show today. That's it on the show. I'll see you next time. I am Moses Humphrey. Bye for now.